Hello, today I'd like to talk to you about some instructional changes that I think will help our school. Much of this will be new to you, but I hope you can listen with an open mind in the spirit of truly positive change for our students. Here's a quote from E.D. Hirsch Jr. that I think is important to this topic. Communication and community through the common school is the hallmark of the successful modern nation. Which one of these do you think the school of the future should look like? We are often shown slides like this in educational presentations. It seems clear that we should be favoring 21st century skills on the right, with students lounging around on beanbags, doing group work, kind of like the Google headquarters model. Instead of that left side where students are just learning facts and sitting in rows, as if that's the factory style of education. Let's think about why teachers are often skeptical about reforms and about things like this. They wonder if they'll be supported. They wonder if they'll get those beanbags in their classrooms. They think that something might look a lot like something they already tried. I would suggest these are very valid concerns. The project method of the 1920s has become project-based learning. Discovery learning is now constructivism, and so on and so on. So, to return to our question, what should our students gain from our curriculum? There aren't many here who would argue for that left side of that slide. Surely, critical thinking skills on the right are more important than facts and memorization, especially in the age of Google. In fact, here is how that should look. Bloom made his taxonomy. This is a pyramid for a reason. According to Bloom, you need a wide base of knowledge in order to go up that pyramid. And in fact, you need a large amount of facts and information in your head before you can do higher order thinking. But I'm willing to grant that the question remains, why teach children facts? Can't you use the broad base of information in Google in order to develop your skills of collaborative thinking and critical thinking? Isn't science speeding up beyond our control? Information exploding at increasing rates? What's the point of filling your head with a thimbleful of knowledge when there's an ocean? We've all seen a slideshow like this. Information changes rapidly. The jobs of tomorrow. If you try to get a technical degree, by the end of your course of study, the information will already be outdated. What is to be done about this rapidly expanding universe of knowledge that our society is creating? Well, I like to suggest, as the meme says, pull it up. The change happening is at the bleeding edges of science and technology, and it's all the more reason why students need to know the basics that have not changed. For example, Newtonian physics is still very useful. The words you read, even on a blog or website, have been in dictionaries now for decades and even centuries. Basic math has not changed. No one will come along and disprove Euclid. And the alphabet and Arabic numerals are also not going to change anytime soon. However, things that probably will change, like coding languages, social media, technology, and of course the bleeding edge of research, are things that oftentimes reformers want to bring into the classroom. And those are the things that are going to be changing so rapidly. It's not really that important to teach students about them right now. Now, this is an important point that I want to emphasize, and that is that facts are needed for reading comprehension. You can see that girl there reading that book, and to fill in the gaps of the reading, which we all do without thinking about it, she needs a wide variety, a wide base of background knowledge. Can't you just look it up? Now, what if you don't know many of the words in a reading passage? How likely are you to fill in the gaps on the fly? Would a child be frustrated reading a passage like this? Of course, it's easy when you know some of the words, which suggests to me that it's not the reading strategy. You might have all the strategy in the world, but if you don't know this background knowledge, you're not going to be able to read this text. This is what cognitive science has found out. Can't you just look it up? Well, when children look up things and don't know enough information, they end up with some humorous results, as you can see here. This is the kind of thing that happens when you look something up and don't have a wide base of knowledge about that topic that was constructed and built up. For example, Mrs. Morrow stimulated the soup, that is, she stirred it up. Our family erodes a lot, that is, they eat out. Me and my family correlate, because without them I wouldn't be here. We are related. These are actual examples from student work. Facts are needed for reading. Try reading this just by using reading strategies without background knowledge. I think you'll find it's pretty taxing. If you know about cricket, yes, this will be easy for you. If you don't, this is an impossible task, even though many of you are probably very advanced readers. How do we get to a point where we in education feel that facts and content do not matter and that skills and critical thinking are somehow superior to facts and information? Well, this is the story of education in this country. In the late 1700s, Rousseau and the Romantics, as a reaction to Enlightenment ideas, promulgated ideas about the sacredness of the natural. Rousseau published a book called Emile, which described a child learning only by natural means and without the artificial constraints of a classroom. He had an individual tutor, and he learned everything entirely using the discovery method. John Dewey inherited the romantic notion of the infallibility of nature, wherein the child's natural development should be unencumbered by artificial constraints. Paulo Freire, still popular today in education programs, furthered this notion by advancing an argument that facts are actually oppressive and that the educator's only role is to help the student discover their own oppression and how to liberate themselves. Our own emphasis on hyper-individualization and personalized learning posits that students should be able to choose, in many cases, their own content. Another story has emerged over time. The Founding Fathers saw a common school as a vital component of our young democracy, which was based on ideas rather than a shared culture. Transmitting the ideas of that democracy was important. The French inherited a similar idea with their common curriculum, which was dismantled in the 1980s by deconstructionists with disastrous results. In the late 20th century, research like the baseball study of Recht and Leslie and de Groot's study of chess players brought to the forefront the importance of long-term memory in all human cognition. Like, you actually have to know stuff to be able to problem solve and be creative or be good in chess or read a story. Today, those who work on AI find that long-term memory is vital to cognition. Kirchner summarized this conclusion, this well-established conclusion of cognitive science, thus: it is no longer seen as a passive repository of discrete, isolated fragments of information that permit us to repeat what we have learned. Nor is it seen as only a component of human cognitive architecture that has merely peripheral influence on complex cognitive processes such as thinking and problem solving. Rather, long-term memory is now viewed as the central dominant structure of human cognition. Everything we see, hear, and think about is critically dependent on and influenced by our long-term memory. So how do we build long-term memories that will serve our students in reading comprehension and all manner of cognitive tasks? The Core Knowledge Foundation provides free curriculum to any district that asks for it. I'll let you watch this just for a few moments.
The curriculums we had in place before we got CKLA were basically kind of scattered.
I think we were just not meeting the needs of the kids. I think teachers felt frustrated within the classroom, always trying to supplement material.
We also really thought it was important to have something that continued to spiral throughout the year. Instead of teaching things in isolation, it's teaching a lot of different concepts at the same time.
And when we came across CKLA, it wasn't presented with a big sales pitch. There weren't a lot of bells and whistles. It was just pretty straightforward.
That is a free program that we can use to base our instruction on. Again, it's available not from a corporation, but from a education research foundation that kind of goes against some of the modern reforms in education, but will provide students with the most important aspects of education. So Natalie Wexler, who wrote a tremendous book called The Knowledge Gap in 2019, describes the ideal curriculum thus: ideally, schools will adopt a curriculum that builds that knowledge in a logical sequence from year to year, balancing familiar and fresh content so that students are challenged but not overwhelmed, and revisiting concepts periodically to reinforce learning. Now, what does this look like? This is taken from the Core Knowledge sequence, just a very brief overview of topics. And you can see how Grade 2, Grade 4, and Grade 5 American History, just to take some random examples, not only develop the knowledge logically, but also spiral, touching back on topics like the Constitution and the Civil War, ensuring students commit these things to long-term memory while building in complexity as well. Core Knowledge sequence is not merely some gimmicky product, not an easy fix. It's not some tricks and tools or how-tos to teach children. It recognizes how important teachers are in delivering the all-important education in a democracy. In fact, proponents of core knowledge recognize that there are no shortcuts. Please remember that content does not mean rote memorization. In fact, there's very little we remember by rote meaning just devoid of all meaning. But remembering things like well-known stories, the folklore of the country, historical facts and historical time periods, if organized into meaningful schema, sits down at the base of Bloom's pyramid and is therefore at the core of all cognitive ability.